John? Okay. There we go. Okay, very good. Yeah, that's a cover coming up. 5 p.m. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Thank you all for coming out tonight. If you will, join me in the invocation and the pledge. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this time when we come together and do the county's business. Ask you to just be present with us tonight. Just give us wisdom. Just help us to know which way to go, make the decisions that's best for the citizens we serve and our community. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome. Thank you all for coming out. You have several opportunities that you can join us and participate tonight. We have a citizens to be heard at the beginning. We have another one at the end. You can speak on either one of those items. You can also speak on each individual agenda item that comes before us. If you will, fill out a speaker card with Miss Jessica on each individual item that you'd like to speak on. We have a motion to approve the agenda. So moved. And a second?
Mr. Chairman, we have the one add-on item that was sent out on Friday. It is an agreement with EMS Management and Consultants. And then we have an additional add-on request. It is a request to adopt an emergency ordinance declaring a moratorium on reservations of sewer capacity. And we're asking that that be added as a public hearing item tonight.
Got my
modify me.
second. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Passes 5-0. All right, we will go into citizens to be heard. If you will, introduce yourself and give us your address when you come up and speak clearly into the microphone so the folks at home can hear you as well. We'll start out with Mr. David Damon.
Never expect to be the first one called, so anyway, I want to talk about the golf course idea of using it for wastewater, and I want to encourage y'all to do that. I think that's a great idea to study it further. At the same time, I think you need to be looking for another site other than the Moore site. That I'm calling it the Moore site. I know you and I, but I don't know what else to call it. The proposed wastewater site that everybody knows is the Moore site. I encourage y'all to be looking around. You know, I know I've heard y'all say, well, if you can find a parcel, let us know about it. But really, you guys need to be proactive. You need to be hitting realtors up. You need to be looking hard and see what else is out there. I encourage you not to run transmission lines to the Moore site at this time, not to do any infrastructure improvements. Let's study all this. Let's don't try to move it forward while nobody's looking and then say, well, we're too far down the road, so we need to make this the site. Let's don't do that. Let's study it all. And I think we need to do what's best for the citizens. You guys need to make decisions based on what's good for all these people here, not just what's good for your business or your bottom line or your contributors' bottom lines, that kind of thing. You need to look at this thing for the whole county. What's going to be best for the citizens? What's going to be a long-term solution to this problem? Along those lines, you need to look at possibly running gray water lines to new developments. I don't know if that's an option here. I know they do it in Orange County and other counties, as I understand. And lastly, I know you're about to just approve a ton more houses tonight. And I encourage you to look at impact fees. You guys are leaving a lot of money on the table, like 300 homes, $1,000 a piece, that's $300,000. We can't afford a pool for a community center. We can't afford to do improvements. That would make a huge difference in our county. And it would just be passed on to the person buying the home. And it's just a giveaway that y'all aren't collecting that money and making our county a better place for everyone else that lives here and taking some of the impact of all this new development off of all of us. Because we are the ones, when things go badly, we flip the bill. We come back, Wakulla Gardens is a good example. We come back and we pick up the tab. If you are setting money aside, and that's easy money to get, set it aside if you need to, but make improvements. Everything doesn't have to be done with a grant in this county because we're always poor, we don't have money. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Gil Damon.
Hey y'all, Gil Damon, 193 Purified Bay Road, Menard. So thank y'all tonight, and I want to thank particularly Mr. Edwards for the February 23rd wastewater forum. I think we all learned a lot from that. It was a lively event. It was very educational, and I think we can all agree that David was a good sport. As I said that night, I was a park ranger for a couple summers at Wakulla Springs, and I got to see the place we live through the eyes of a lot of people who don't live here. And kind of helped me rediscover what is so special and what keeps a lot of us here. And, you know, a lot of folks, if they did, if they had visited here before, they would kind of ask me the same questions on those boat tours, and they'd say, well, where did the eelgrass go, and how did the water get so dark, and, you know, where did the fish go? And, of course, a lot of that is about nitrates. And so we're going to talk just a little bit more about wastewater. And, you know, this site that y'all have selected for wastewater, I think this has been beaten to death, but I'll say it again, it has poor soils, it's in a floodplain, it's got karst features, it's in the most vulnerable zone of the BMAP, and it has fragile crust, fragile limestone crust. And, you know, these things, one or two or three of those maybe being true, maybe that's something y'all could engineer a way out of, but that's a lot. And, you know, that's why we need more testing at Wildwood. And one of the things that was interesting about wastewater forum is I remember hearing that night that 200,000 gallons was the maximum a golf course could do. That was the very best that it could do. That's what we heard that night. And I've since heard that we've now acknowledged that actually it can take quadruple that. It can take 800,000. And meanwhile, the owner of the golf course is saying it can take 1.5 million. So we need to do more study of the golf course. We've got to make sure we're getting our facts straight here. And, you know, lastly, I'd just like to say that, you know, I'm 24 years old, and if all goes well, I'll have a couple kids here, and they'll have some kids, and I'd like them to be able to play in clear water at Wakulla Springs and shot Walker Creek oysters. And, you know, what we do now is going to determine if that's possible. And so, you know, I just urge y'all to take this site seriously, to look at the golf course, and to keep considering other sites. You know, thank y'all so much. Appreciate you. Have a good meeting.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Galvester Alexander.
Can I yield my time to a wife member?
No, sir, we don't have a policy to do that, but we'll be glad to let her speak.
Well, I've got a time to speak too, but if you don't want him to speak, that's fine.
No, I'm glad for him to speak, but you're up next if you'd like to speak instead, Miss Linda Alexander.
I'm going to speak on something else.
And we, for the public, we used to have a policy that you could yield your time to another speaker, but that's not in the board policy
We used
anymore.
to do that. We
Yes.
used to do that.
Yes, ma'am, you're right.
Okay, my name is Linda Alexander, 2561 Spring Creek Highway, and I'm here to talk to you tonight about the site you purchased for the spray field. I came across the facility plans, and I printed them off, and they were in your board meeting of December the 14th. And I read through it, and seems like y'all were going from the get-go. This is November the 30th. Seems like y'all were going from the get-go with more property, and because that's called alternate 2, I believe. I read what they said in there. They had their disadvantages and the advantages for the more land. But you know what I didn't find in there on the disadvantages? They did not talk about our clean water, our golf, or how this could hurt our fishermen and the oysters. Also, the fact that this was going to be constructed between 2 large residential neighborhoods that have kids running around. Now, we all have kids and grandkids, and we certainly don't want our kids out in the yard when that spray is going over. Also, the fact that the smell is going to be bad. And did you know one thing? That we are very fortunate to have here in Wakulla County that no other county in Florida or the world has. Do you realize that we are owners, we are home to the world's largest and deepest natural fresh water springs, and that is Wakulla Springs. We owe Wakulla Springs, the area, and our area, an obligation, since we have that in our county. That's the good thing we have in our county, to keep it clean. And where you're at, this more land, that ain't good. And I'm not some dumb little woman up here talking to you. I've been in construction for quite a while, and I know what flood zone is. And I happen to live not too far from there, and I know where the flood waters are there. My next door neighbor has been so flooded out, whenever it rains, they walk across the street to walk in. I have called and asked several questions, and Mr. Hemp, you never got back with me. You were too busy with DUI. You said, I'll call you and get back with you and come by and talk to you. You never did.
Well, go ahead.
Well, that's okay. You don't have to. I'm going to find it out on my own. And I listened to the board meeting. My 3 minutes up already?
Yes, ma'am, but if you can bring it in for
I can
Andy,
bring it
we'll
in.
give you a second. Yes, ma'am.
I listened to the board meeting again. I heard Mr. Kemp say that looks like a good price. Well, you don't know nothing about good land, okay? That was not good land. You should have walked on it. I agree with Randy. We need to own the land. We don't need to rent from the golf course. We need to own the land. And Mr. Edwards, is that you? I could not believe I heard it right, that you looked for land for 5 years and you never found anything? Did we hire you to be a broker? Right there sits a darn good broker.
Miss Alexander,
He's good.
we're going to have to cut you off there, but we appreciate your comments.
You've heard my story?
Yes, ma'am.
And there's no sense in throwing good money after bad. And remember, Flint, Michigan, they ended up getting sued. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not having that mess at
Thank you,
my...
Miss Alexander. Thank you.
I will be calling the governor. I will be.
And if you also look at the nitrogen content coming out of Wakulla Springs compared to the last 20 years, we're proud of what we're doing, and we're protecting those springs.
If you'll recall...
Thank you, Ms. Alexander.
The commissioners before you, they fought Leon County.
I understand.
To get that straightened up.
We can see the results, that we're heading in the right direction, and we're proud of that.
No, I'm not.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm proud of you, Chuck Hess.
Thank you, Miss Alexander.
David says, this is Chuck Hess celebration.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming out tonight.
I'll be back.
Thank you. Mr. John Burke.
I can't every time where I would.
I can't follow that one. My name is John Burke. I live at 19 Pebble Court down in the Shell Point Beach area. It's not on the agenda tonight, but I don't know how all this operates. I'm pretty new to the area, but I wanted to bring up a couple of issues that are being discussed and kicked around. One is the beach staying open past 10 o'clock at night or all night. I live pretty close down there. I'm opposed to that. Development also of an RV park at the corner of Carnegie Way and Shell Point is now being discussed. And people are putting together bids to make that happen. I'm not sure what the environmental impacts would be, but based on what I've heard from other folks here tonight, it would not be good for our canals and our waterways and our marshes. We currently have overcrowded beaches in the summertime. We've got cars all over the neighborhood, all over everybody's neighborhood. Boat ramps are overcrowded. Recent attempted robberies in our community we've got on video, including right next door to me and right across the street from me. Drug use is so rampant at the beach on the weekends, you'd think pot was legalized down here. The disturbing thing about that is families, when I first moved here, I saw a lot of families out there. It was crowded with families. That was fabulous. But now families are actually packing their kids up and leaving because of the cursing, screaming, yelling, drunk kids down there and everything else. Loud music, foul language, litter, beer cans everywhere. As a community, we get together and clean that place up, probably once every couple of months. We'll walk around picking up trash. Shouldn't have to do that, but we'll do it. But As a community, we've hired off-duty officers to come in and work at night to enforce the current rules, sunrise to sunset, try to discourage the robberies and break-ins and that type of thing. My request really is, and I plan to obviously attend more meetings, is that as these things come before you guys, you consider them impacts on the community, the folks that live down there, not only that, but also the environmental communities for Shell Point, Oyster Bay, and Live Oak Island. I would hope that we're given a chance as a community to weigh in on these things before they get voted on and passed and kind of run through. So I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. That ends our citizens to be heard. We have no awards and presentations. Consent. Do we have a motion to move consent? Second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That passes. General business, we'll go to item number 10.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this item requests board direction relating to the imposition of a voluntary assessment for communication improvements within the Sweetwater Ridge subdivision.
Motion to approve. Second. We have a motion and a second, and some citizens. Mr. Mike A. Sally? Oh, coming down.
I think you said Allen.
Allen, yep. Oh, I see there. Mike Allen. Welcome,
My
sir.
name's Mike Allen. I live at 216 Sweetwater Circle. I'm one of the few that voted against this proposal. I guess the first reason that I have is that I don't feel like any of my neighbors should be forced to pay a tax that they don't want a service for. The second one is I don't know what I'm voting for or paying for because I've yet to see what the actual contract with the provider is. I don't know if the information's available and it hasn't been passed out, or it's just not available. The third is that when the homeowners association, which is basically a president because we haven't seen the secretary treasurer in the last 2 years at any of our meetings, come up with a plan that was X amount of dollars for 5 years, I believe 3 or 5, 5 years, or a flat rate. If the county uses it, you've got a rate for 1 year, and then it's left open-ended after that. So nobody knows what they're going to be paying after the first year for how long. So that's the reason I voted no on this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We don't have anything to do with the rates Comcast charges, do we?
Is the one the Comcast rates? No, we have nothing to do with that, no.
And the rate is straight line amortization. It's the same payment every year for 5 years. Okay, thank you. Just like it was in Brook Forest.
Right.
No, sir. No, you don't.
You have time left, Jessica?
I'm sorry, maybe you do.
Yeah, probably about a minute left.
I apologize.
I thought the buzzer went off. No, this one didn't go.
To me, it's not about the rates that Comcast or whoever the provider is going to be. It's how can we come up with a flat rate through a HOA and go, this is what your payments will be when we're doing it, but when the county's doing it, you can't. I don't understand that. I'm pretty simple. If we can do it, why can't the county do it so that we know what we're going to be paying for? And for how long?
The county's proposed is 5 years, $191 a year.
Okay, that's not the information I was given. The information
5 years.
I was given was it would be assessed on an annual basis,
It will be assessed on an annual basis, but that'll be the amount of the assessment.
but that don't add up to what we were told it was going to cost originally.
Well, I don't know what you were told, so.
What it is $191 a year.
What it is $191.
That's what we're voting on tonight.
And a penny.
For 5 years.
Yes,
5 years.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Matt Chetnick.
Hello, Matt Chetnick. I live at 127 Sweetwater Circle. Just wanted to say thanks for having us up here. I haven't done this before, but I was asked to come and speak in favor of this. I guess general business number 10 for the broadband. As you may know, this is our only option for usable wired service in our neighborhood. We've been struggling like a lot of communities in Wakulla have, trying to be on lockdown, work from home, et cetera, and it's been very hard to do with, kids in school and folks trying to work at home, and we went down this path on our own to try to get services upgraded from 2 wired providers in this area, and both of those proposals didn't really work well. So I just want to thank the county for helping us. When y'all got involved, we gave us another option to finance this, and it actually got the price lowered by about $20,000 for the total build-out, which Comcast in this case is going to be putting in some of their money to help build this out. And as you know, our density of residents in Sweetwater is there's not that many houses in there, so it doesn't make the ROI for them look good. So this is really the only way for us to move forward and get a good ROI for usable services. And we did have several meetings, we did have several motions, and delivered all the information required to pass this along to our neighbors. And I think we had an overwhelming majority vote in favor of it. I don't like feeling that we are maybe forcing 1 or 2 people who have reservations into doing this, but it was kind of an all or nothing thing. I think that the overall benefit outweighs the very minimal cost. I wish we could have done it a different way financing-wise, but I just wanted to say thank you, and that we are in favor of moving forward and make a huge difference in our neighborhood, and we hope to be kind of pioneers to help other neighborhoods who may be struggling along the way see this as an option to get usable services, because in Wakulla there's a lot of neighborhoods who have very poor wired internet service options, and ours was one of them. We're hoping to cure that real soon. So I want to say thank you for that, but I also want to urge the county to look further into the vast amount of rural broadband funding that there has been for a number of years, and more coming, that it seems to me as a new resident of Wakulla we've been missing out on. There's piles of federal money that should handle things just like this, and it's maybe too late for our neighborhood, and we're moving forward, I guess tired of waiting, but I think in the future and for other neighborhoods, I'd really like for y'all to take a really hard look at what's available from the USDA, from the FCC, and other federal entities to help build out usable wired internet services in rural communities. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say for the public's knowledge, we didn't do anything special for this neighborhood. This is an existing ordinance, been around since 1988. I think was the original one. My neighborhood, Brook Forest, used it to pave our roads and put water in. So we didn't do anything special for this neighborhood. They simply utilized an existing way to fund it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Miss Mary Wallace.
Don't talk us out of it, Mary.
I'm Mary Wallace, 172 Sweetwater Circle, and I'm actually the president of our HOA, and I'm here, first of all, to thank you because we have been working on this for 2 years. 2 years we have been unable for people in our neighborhood, teachers, students, anybody to work at home, and now with what has happened, it has been harder for us to do that, and so we're trying to get out of the dark ages and do this, and we have been working for 2 years, and I really thank y'all for working with us. The county has been wonderful, Dave Edwards and Annette have been wonderful in helping us through the process. We have followed every guideline, every procedure that y'all put forward to us. You know, it was out of our hands. Y'all were the ones that sent the ballots. The ballots came back. We met the percentage needed to move forward. And our neighborhood had an association meeting, and we as a neighborhood are going to put forth $11,000 towards this, on top of 17 neighbors want to pay their portion up front. So there's 17 going to pay it up front, 13 will be assessed. They all know that they can pay that assessment off any time in the 5 years with any penalties. I mean, in a way, we're utilizing y'all like a bank, because no bank's going to give us money to do what we need to do because we have no asset or collateral to give them for it. So, in essence, that's what we're doing. That's what y'all are doing for us. And I really urge y'all to consider we have people for it and people against it. But the majority is for it. And we really need it for our neighborhood. We need it for the teachers, the students, everybody. None of us can work from home. None of us can do anything. And we're just trying to improve our neighborhood, about trying to make our neighborhood better. So I thank you all for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Miss Jenna Bowman.
My name's Jenna Bowman. I live at 195 Sweetwater Circle. I'll be really short. Again, we're for this. I thank you for doing this. I daily work from home. For about 8 months I worked from home. Now I go to the office a couple of days of the week. I probably have the youngest children in the neighborhood, so my kids are going to be growing up there and utilizing this, and right now, I kick them off the internet so that I can work. And so, this is just going to be something great for our neighborhood and able to give us something that we can utilize and our kids can grow up with, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Motion stands, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we have a motion and a second, and that is all the citizens' discussion from the board.
This is, well, I was going to bring this up later. We need to have a procedure that when we build a development, we have the infrastructure put in as it comes forward.
We talked about that.
My thing is that I'm for it 100%. I think they need it. I think we're doing the right thing. The only thing I agree with Mr. Allen, I know there's 7 houses out of 30 that don't want it. I just don't agree with making somebody pay for a service that they're not utilizing. So I'm for it because of percentage, but one thing good about it is, studies have shown that, that it's going to be a benefit to your property, make your property more marketable too. So, if you're looking for a subdivision that has high-speed internet and one that doesn't, the houses in the high-speed internet is going to sell a lot quicker than ones that don't. I actually agree with Chuck on it. I think subdivisions being in, I know we don't control Comcast, but I think it should be part of a subdivision coming in because one of the things with the rural counties and stuff like that, broadband is a number one thing in the state of Florida right now. And like Mr. Choate said, there's a lot of money that we need to really start looking into to not charge a homeowner for it. But I'm actually for it. I just don't believe in charging somebody for a service that, but the majority rules, and that's what happens when you live in a HOA.
Mike, I think most of the money up till now from the government has been for the companies to apply for, not for the communities to apply.
Exactly.
And still is, and what I have found is the companies don't want to participate because when they do, they have to open up their books, and it's not just their footprint in Wakulla, it's everything. And so the companies don't want to take advantage of those federal grants because it subjects them to open everything. And so generally that's been...
That's what, people keep hearing about these federal grants, and it's not grants to us. We can't get that money.
That's true. Believe me, it's a primary focus with the Florida Association of Counties, primary focus with the Small County Coalition. Every week, and there's 3 bills right now, but every week we have meetings about this, and we're trying to figure out a way to solve it. So we want to solve it, and it's not just a Wakulla problem or a state of problem. It's nationwide. I mean, Palm Beach County, one of the largest populations in the populated counties in the state, the entire west side of the county, they're just like us. They have no internet. They're rural. They're farmland, so they have the same problems. So every county has the same issue. I too have a problem with forcing people to pay for something that they don't want. I asked David today let's look at some numbers, and I understand that sometimes these things, what we end up with, are different than what we start with. And when we started, we didn't have any money on the table. Now it sounds like we're getting a lot of money on the table, and that's great. The Homeowners Association is putting in $11,000. I knew about $10,000, and now we have 17 people that's willing to pay. And so, I asked David, well, what if we take some of that $10,000 and we ask the Homeowners Association to consider paying for those 7 people who don't want it? And I believe where we're at right now is it puts us within about $6,000 of paying this entire thing off. If you've got your $17,000 and you pay for those 7 that don't want it, you're only
I'd never support that.
You're only within $6,000 of paying the entire thing off.
No way. I want to follow the ordinance. We get it in book for us.
What I'm saying is we don't need the ordinance. What I'm saying is alternative, that we may not need the ordinance because if they're within $7,000 of solving this, we've got this big thing going on right now to come up with $6,000. They've got 6 people who have already voted yes and said they want it. And if they want it and they stroke a check, just like the 17 people say, then they're done and they don't need us involved in it at all.
What we do when one of the people that didn't want it sells their house to someone and they do want it?
That's an HOA issue then. They assess that fee against that person, and they can, as an HOA, they have the ability to do that, and they can come after those, and I think they should do that. And if I was on the HOA, I would absolutely do it. And let me say, if I was in your neighborhood, I would sign up for this. I need this in my neighborhood just like you guys do, so I see that side of it. But there are some people that don't want it, and why should they pay for it? This is a way that the HOA could take that $11,000 that you're planning on paying, and you could pay those, and then if those folks ever connect, you assess them to make them repay the HOA, or if they ever sell it.
How would you do that logistically, though? How would you...
The HOA would do that.
And say, we know you got cable, you owe us...
The HOA would assess
That would
that.
never work. That would never work.
I don't see why it wouldn't work.
How would they do
The
that?
HOA can assess whatever fees they all agree to collectively.
I got a motion on the table. Okay. I'd like to vote on it.
Very good. Do we have any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Aye. Passes 4-1. All right, we'll move on to our add-on item, the EMS item.
On consent?
Yeah, that was added on to consent. If you want to take a separate vote on it now, if that was not clear, we can.
Yeah, it was not clear to me.
I didn't realize.
Okay, but let's go ahead and
If you can present it, and let's vote on that separately.
this is an item that was sent out on Friday. This is, back in March 22nd, you guys had approved a continuing services agreement to extend your existing billing arrangement with EMS Management and Consultants. After that approval, they came to staff and requested some changes to the agreement. This is a revised agreement. It extends it under this, I believe it's the same terms, same money, same monetary terms as you currently have. This would go into effect on May 1st.
Motion to approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any citizens on this item?
No.
Discussion from the board. Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Passes 5-0. Public hearings, we have the add-on on the sewer.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this requests board approval of emergency ordinance declaring a moratorium on reservations of sewer capacity pursuant to section 31022 of the code and by a 4/5 vote of the board. What this does, it doesn't change anything that the current builders are doing now. Only thing it really does is prevents a builder or a developer from coming in and buying a bulk of the capacity that we have remaining. It would, in our lift stations, it would prevent that. Other than that, it's first come, first served, as it is now.
Motion to approve the emergency ordinance.
Hold on one second. Because this did not get advertised, it would be an emergency ordinance since that we are having some shortages in the transmission of the collection infrastructure. And so this would require a 4/5 vote to waive the notice requirement and then approve this as an emergency moratorium. It's slated to last 365 days. And another alternative, if this is basically first come, first served, you get your building permit, capacity connections, as opposed to being able to buy in bulk. However, there is still an option that if there was a large development and they wanted to enter into a development agreement where they would provide infrastructure for their development, we could still entertain that under this moratorium.
Motion stands.
We have a motion, do we have a second? Second.
This is so some big developer with deep pockets couldn't come in and buy up all the remaining capacity, and then everybody else would have none.
We get our system completed, that's right. I think it makes it more fair.
That's right. Very good. Any citizens like to speak on this? Further discussion from the board? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That's 5-0. All right. That ends our public hearings. We'll go to planning and zoning, item number 11.
Okay, item number 11 is I'm pulling it up, an application for a site plan approval. This is for a 55,000+ square feet grocery store with a drive-through pharmacy and attached retail buildings. As noted further in your agenda materials, the subject property contains about 8 acres and is located on the east side of Crawfordville Highway, north of Songbird Avenue.
Motion to approve. Second.
A motion and a second. One speaker, Mr. Fred Hand.
Hold on. This is a quasi-judicial item, so if there's any ex parte communications that you've received from interested parties regarding this application, you all need to state those on the record.
I think I talked to Mr. Parrish about it.
No. None.
None.
Talked to Mr. Parrish a year ago about it, but that's
Okay.
about it.
If there's anyone here who's going to provide any information on this application, please stand up to be sworn, including the applicant if you're going to speak.
Agent,
Mr. Agent at hand.
Okay? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
All right, Mr. Hand, you're up.
No comment.
Just, if you have any questions or
No, sir.
nothing to say?
No, sir.
Okay. That's
Don't talk him out of it, Fred.
Good speech. Makes it easy. Any discussion from the board? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Passes 5-0.
Some of this isn't a closed basin, and that was taken into account for storm.
That's correct, yes.
We will move to item number 12, planning and zoning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an application for a change of zoning from C2 and R1 to CTTP, which is Travel Trailer Park Commercial. This is at 1599 Coastal Highway. In accordance with the county code, each commissioner should disclose any ex parte communications.
None. I spoke with Mr. Patel.
None.
None.
If there's anyone here who is going to provide any information to the board on this application, please stand up to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
All right. Do we have a motion?
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion and a second. We have two speakers. Mr. Wade Brown.
Just available for questions.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Neeraj Patel.
Available for questions.
Thank you, sir. Discussion from the board.
Yeah, we've got a lot of RV parks coming on in the planning stages right now. And, this is a good place. I like repurposing the site for an RV park. I just am concerned about the visual from the highway, okay? I mean, their visual is going to be focused on the bay, but if you've been over to St. George or East Point, you have these lined up, Carabel Beach. They're not very attractive. I'm hoping that we end up with, maybe we should start thinking about a landscape ordinance to shelter these from the visual aspect along the roads.
I wouldn't be adverse to that.
So,
And I think in general, with the recent FEMA map updates, it really hit Panacea hard with the flood elevation you gotta be at. And, a travel trailer, you can haul it off if a hurricane's coming.
yeah, it's I'm not opposed to the travel trailer. I just don't want to have.
I don't disagree with what you're saying.
Okay, trashy look. And so, Mr. Patel, if you dress this up, you'll make everybody happy, okay?
Yeah, Ronnie, good with that.
Sir, if you'd like to speak, come to the microphone, please.
Neeraj Patel, 15 Mallard Pond, Crawfordville. We are going to be doing a really nice coastal landscaping in the front of it with a nice fencing, decorative kind of fencing, and as well as the palm trees and things like that of that nature, and kind of really dress it up in the front of it, kind of. So.
Just don't use any crepe myrtle for me.
What? No.
No crepe myrtle.
No.
Is that coastal?
No.
No mimosas. And it's a good reuse of the old posy crab plant,
Sure is, yeah.
which I think is an eyesore in itself.
It is, and then that's why, this can be really good for our community, and I'm hoping that he does a project here that we can all be happy with.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Further discussion from the board? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Passes 5-0. Item number 13, planning and zoning.
Yes, this is a request for the transmittal of an application for comprehensive plan future land use map amendment CP 2101. This is a request to change a almost 98-acre parcel on the east side of the county in the Wakulla Station area from agriculture to rural 2. This property does front Watson Cutoff and is located just east of Woodville Highway.
Motion to approve. We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. We have one speaker, Mr. Robbie Miller.
Here for questions.
Thank you, sir. Further discussion from the board?
Yeah, Robbie, if you're here for questions, I'm real concerned about making sure that all of our communities
have high-speed internet? Are you going to put in the system into this community as you're building it for all the houses to have that?
I've got quotes on phase one from CenturyLink and Comcast, but haven't contracted with either. On this part, we're just in
I just want a commitment, we can't hold you to it, but I want to know that you're going to do this, because this is what we need to have in all our.
Yeah, I do want Comcast or CenturyLink. There's fiber for both, so there's great service at these locations.
Fiber hasn't, CenturyLink hasn't done anything good so far lately, so.
No, I've lost houses over.
That'll be good.
So I definitely want high-speed internet as well.
Okay. Makes it easier to sell. Yeah.
And this is definitely an area that we need the county to grow, so that's the reason I'm for it.
I was thinking, I believe maybe Carmel Rocio might be the last neighborhood that was built there, and then that one, been nothing for a long time before that. Yep. If you would like to speak, come on up, ma'am. If you will, just fill out a speaker card when you get done.
Okay, I don't...
Speak into the microphone, because there's folks at home watching as well. Thank you.
Okay, my name's Janice Sharman. I live at 56 Sharman Circle, on the Mobile Home Park, right there across from Savannah's. You have 125 new homes going up right next to my trailer park. So you do have a new subdivision coming in. You think Carmen Roco was the last, but that's 125 cars, no sewer, going on to that land. Then Golden Construction wants to come in, build another huge one right behind the trailer park. I'm not against construction and new homes. I'd love my trailer park on sewer. It would be wonderful, but it doesn't run down there. If I remember right, y'all had approved a Winn-Dixie up there at the county line. Do y'all remember that? Y'all remember that?
Oh.
You're probably all too young.
I would have been here. I would have been here.
Okay. He couldn't put his Winn-Dixie in there because he was told that it had to be four-laned and had to put a traffic light right there where the prison road is. All that land in there got to you can check on it. Got it. So why are we approving stuff that, nothing happened before? They did not get to build their homes. They did not get to put in a Winn-Dixie. They didn't put the traffic light in. They didn't put it on the highway. I got 125 more new homes coming in right next to our trailer park, which, again, I don't have a problem. I have a problem with no sewer. We're right down the Wakulla Basin. You just got $150 million from the city of Tallahassee for nitrates that come in. You've done a wonderful job spending that money. But we're not going to have that money to fix the Wakulla Springs when you have all those homes being built. I'm sorry about, being kind of negative about the Golden Construction, because I know he has employees he needs to, hire, and homes have to be built, and I know they're popular because they're like 20 minutes from the Capitol. I understand all that. But I don't want our Wakulla Springs to go away because that's the part of the county that's left to be built up on. But we're the part of the county that sits right on top of the springs, right on the water. That's what I'm going to say.
Thank you, ma'am.
A motion to approve stands, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, well, where's this 100 and...
You know where Ann Circle is?
Yeah.
Okay, Ann Circle is here.
Speak into the microphone, ma'am, if you will. South of Ann Circle?
It's south of Ann Circle.
So this would be between Woodville Highway and...
It's on the Woodville Highway.
Subject property, that would be the phase one. There's 23 lots, I believe, in that, of 2-acre tract.
It's 125 homes out on 100 lots.
Map, Chuck, right there. Yeah, I'm looking at it right here. Okay.
Yeah,
I just didn't see
the preliminary,
25 homes. That's what I was concerned. So you're talking about this same development that...
Yes, Golden's behind my mobile home park, which, again, I have no problem. I'm sure they're going to go in and put those ugly sewer lines, those big old Indian burial mounds, looking things back there for each home, right? You got to do it, right? So they're closer to the aquifer.
No, that's not how it works, ma'am.
That's not how it works. Okay, well, I don't know how sewer works. I just know that I don't have it. I'd put it, if y'all go sewer to my part of the county, I'd hook every one of my trailers up. I don't mind that.
Ralph, we need,
We do hope to have it countywide at some point. We're growing it, but it's
But it's like putting the cart before the horse. Why are you putting all these holes in?
I have to end your time, but thank you for speaking. Robert, have you considered NLIBs as you build this? In-ground nitrogen reduction biofilters?
Yeah, there's certain criteria that won't allow them here.
In that area?
Is this in the You have to do an excavation, like of the pipe clay, the soil that doesn't drain. They won't allow those biomass systems. So they'll all be performance.
Because it's a great system.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
and he does have to meet all the BMAP standards, right, protect the springs. Okay, thank you.
And the primary
And
springs.
there's only gonna be like 70 homes on this site. So that was wrong.
And I heard you say they're all going to be performance-based septic tanks.
Every one of
They
them.
have to if then.
Yep.
Thank you, sir. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you. We'll go to item number 14 under planning and zoning.
Yes, this is also a request for a transmittal of an application for a comprehensive plan future land use map amendment. This property is located on the north side of Shadeville Road, east of Trice Lane. This is a 107.5 acre parcel, and they are requesting to amend the future land use designation from urban fringe to suburban transitioning. The Planning Commission voted last Monday evening 5-1 to recommend approval. Although the proposed density does allow up to 5 units per acre, the applicant in their materials did indicate that they were only seeking to develop at a rate of about 3 units per acre, which would result in 325 new residential units. The property is located in the X flood zone as per the FEMA maps, and the site is currently vacant. A natural features report indicated that there is a small wetland area on this lot, and cultural resource assessment shows that the project would have no impacts on any significant cultural resources. Adjacent lands are also under the future land use map designation of urban fringe. Should be noticed that this site is within the Crawfordville town plan, Crawfordville town plan, excuse me, I'm tongue-tied tonight. And other adjacent land uses in the general vicinity are designated as urban core, currently allowing 10 units per acre. A traffic study for the proposed development indicated that no roadway improvements would be needed to accommodate a proposed development at this size. A residential needs analysis was assessed, and the argument was made by the applicant that the property is more desirable location because it is in the Crawfordville town plan and provides easy access to the amenities of downtown Crawfordville. The school board addressed concurrency and determined that there would be sufficient capacity at the elementary and middle school levels. However, the high school level at this time would be considered over capacity. At the time of preliminary plat or site plan, the school board can seek mitigation under the provisions in our comprehensive plan, and that they have indicated they will continue to monitor as development progresses within the county. This property is not located within the spring special planning area. However, it is in the BMAP area and within the primary focus areas. As such, central sewer and water will be extended to serve the site. This property is outside of the coastal high hazard area as well. It should be noted, if it is approved for transmittal this evening, staff will send the application to all state agencies for review, and then it will return to the county commissioners at a future hearing to consider adoption.
Motion to approve. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. We have several citizens. Start out with Mr. Gene Pascarella. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Gene Pascarella. I live at 63 Anna Drive in Crawfordville. My question on this is, the planning and zoning comprehensive plan was set up years ago for this thing to be only 2 houses per acre. I have no complaints about them putting in a subdivision there, but there's a wetland there, and I just don't think that having 3 houses per acre would be in compliance. That's a blank spot on the map, 107 acres, I think it is. Okay, the subdivision I live in is on the west side there. They're half-acre lots. On the northwest corner there, all those are half-acre or acre lots. And, of course, everywhere else right around it is several acres that people own. If they want to put a subdivision in, if he wants $10,000 for a third of an acre, why doesn't he just charge $15,000 for a half acre and still be making the same amount of money on selling the lots? And then they would build a nicer house on a half acre than he would a third of an acre. You're looking at me, Randy, like you don't know what I'm talking about.
I can guarantee you the lots are gonna be more than 10 grand.
Well, I'm snatching those figures. I could have said $1, but I'm snatching those figures out of the sky. But that's my point is why do you have to have that many houses per acre? He's talking 320, is it, sir?
327.
And 320. Well, with the wetlands in there, there's going to be more than 3 houses per acre if it develops out the way they're talking. You know, I just want it to be where it complies with everything else. And you get my point, don't you, sir? You know, I'm not against you building out there. Everybody wants something somewhere. But, you know, I just don't think it should be changed from to suburban from the older designation. And that's all I got.
All right, sir, that was good. Thank you, sir. Next, Miss Sandy Walker.
Sandy Walker, 121 Murray Circle. I also want to point out that the 325 homes, I'm opposed to it, first of all. The 325 homes does not equate to a third of an acre per parcel. You're going to develop 325 homes on 107 acres. That's 0.33 acres without any roadways, green space, or anything like that. So it's going to be a high density. Our neighborhood, I live in Amelia Wood. My house backs directly into it, and I have a vacant property next to my house. That vacant property is owned by the same people who own that other piece of property. And I think what the majority of our neighborhood is afraid of is that they're going to run a roadway through it and run all the traffic through it. Even if they don't run the car traffic through it, they're going to run foot traffic through our backyards because they're not planning on putting in a neighborhood community blocking for the neighborhood to keep them in there, and they like it because it's close. Yeah, everybody will cut through our backyards to get over to Trice Lane, to get over to Winn-Dixie or wherever they want to go. And there's nothing that's going to keep them from doing that. The developer said he's going to put a green space in there. Well, that just encourages people to come hang out in our backyards. And the roadway access at the Planning Commission meeting, they said that they're going to run most of the traffic down Songbird Avenue or Drive or whatever it is. And they said they had a traffic study done that said that it would hold up to 850 cars per hour. Who wants to live in that Songbird area with 850 cars going down their street with their children playing around there? Nobody. And we don't want them diverting it through our traffic either. So we don't like that. And yes, there's probably not going to be 850 cars because there's 325 homes, but you figure 2 cars per home is 650 homes. I think 650 cars going through that neighborhood. And I wonder if any of those people have been, probably some of them that were in 1,000 feet of this vacant parcel were notified, but was everybody that's going to be running traffic down that road notified? Because I'm sure they would probably be here tonight. Also, too, your county's needs assessment, residential needs assessment, that was prepared by Kimley Horn in 2017, specifically states you don't need this growth to meet your development goals, that you have the capacity to meet the goals without having to increase the density in this area. And another thing, too, your Wakulla, visit Wakulla. Wakulla is a natural place to be, but how natural is that, having 5 homes to an acre? That's not natural. Might as well change your visit Wakulla sign. That's it.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, Mr. Billy Colbert.
Chairman, Billy Colbert, 2851 Remington Green Circle. I'm the agent for this project. I just had a few items I want to run down. Some are covered, most of them. But the property is within the Crawfordville Town Plan, where density is encouraged. This property is also outside of the Springs Protection Zone, so it's in an area where you both are encouraging density and it's outside of the Springs area. So I just want to point that out. We talked about already that we are proposing to just do 3 units per acre. And the reason we did suburban transitioning is it's really just...
Excuse me, outside the Springs Protection Zone?
Mm-hmm.
It's outside the B-map, but not in the Springs Protection.
That's correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's got the B-map.
The B-map, no,
It's
correct.
part of the B-map.
Area 1, right?
Yeah, it's in
Not the
PFA
Springs
1.
Protection cone.
So yeah, it's really the next category up is suburban transitioning, which is 5 units per acre, but that's really not our intent to do. It would be the 3 units per acre. Talking about traffic, we did, this subdivision will be served both by extending Songbird Avenue through down to Shadeville Highway, which that would allow better interconnectivity in this area.
Is there any intent to connect with Amelia Wood subdivision?
No. No, we were unaware of that other property until the planning commission night. We were unaware that even existed.
So can you show us on the map where you're going to connect through to Shadeville?
Sure. So it'll be through the project, but basically we'll just extend Songbird Avenue down, and then it'll turn, and it'll come through the stems, and it'll connect.
And then just talking about the capacities of Wakulla Aaron Road and Shadeville Road. So this is all PM peak hour trips, so it's just a 1 hour period. The capacity of those roadways are 850 vehicles per hour. Its current capacity is at, this is Wakulla Aaron Road, 224 trips per hour, which is about 25% of capacity. After we add the trips from this project, we would be at about 50% capacity. So, and then Shadeville Road, it's currently at 37% capacity, and it would, after this development, be 52% capacity.
I know you're not at this phase now for the comp plan, but do you contemplate some of them, requiring them to build a turn lane on Songbird?
So that's going to all depend on when they do the full-blown traffic analysis as part of their site plan or preliminary plat design, then those more in-depth analysis occur.
Well, a left turn lane analysis is much different than an overall roadway capacity.
That's correct.
And that's a pretty major thoroughfare, so most likely is going to need a turn lane with the cumulative effects.
Right, so yeah, that'll be analyzed at their preliminary plat stage.
And also, forgive me, Mr. Chairman, but if we need right-of-way, of course, now's the time to get it, right? And I guess it doesn't butt out Wakulla areas. Never mind.
Yeah, we'll definitely take a close look at Shadeville and make sure we don't need them to trim anything off the front for us.
That was it. Anything further? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next, Mr. Robert Parrish.
Good afternoon. Before planning, Robert Parrish, before planning approved this last week, there was a little bit of concern from some of the people in the audience, and I just want to repeat two or three things that I brought up at that meeting to put people at ease. As I already said, to the development to the east of this project, where there's 1 or 2 or 3 sites owned by the seller that I'm acquiring land from, I had no idea that he owned lots in that subdivision. Have never talked to him about doing anything, and we're not using that as an access for sure. We're using Songbird, Shadeville, and the piece of property that you see is undeveloped on Trice, so that when somebody does one day develop that parcel, they'll have an interconnect to that. So you'll have actually 3 outlets at some point in time.
So you're going to stub something out to that cow pasture?
Yes.
But you're not, it's going to dead end?
It's just be a start for future. So you'll have eventually 3 outlets. We were looking at the available zoning, being where it's located of the 10 units to the acre. I think it would have opened up a whole lot more availability for people that could afford to live in those type units. It called for that type density. we reined it in, and when we ended up with the 325 that we have in our application, that's what we're planning on doing. There was concerns in the meeting because we're asking for the 5 units to the acre, that I'm gonna do a bait and switch to where we come out of the meeting and then I'll flip back to 5 units. We had some discussion about some methodology in the future to where we could do for any other developers, such as myself, where we could do some kind of agreement so it makes the neighbors much more at ease, so that you can't be doing a flip or flop. So, but I'm very open even now, but the application already has the 325 homes, so that's what we're planning on doing. And we're going to have we know there's a light going in at Songbird, which I helped with the paying for that for the Publix, and that was, Commissioner Hess, that was 2 years ago when we talked about bringing Publix. That's how long it's been. And so, there's any other questions, but I just wanted to put that at ease for some of the concerns that the neighbors had. Thank you.
Mr. Greg Gibson.
Greg Gibson, 444 Shadeville Road, Crawfordville. I've lived in that spot on and off for the better part of 51 years. I built my house there 24 years ago, and if you look at that map that you have up on the wall there, I'm the guy on the south side of it, 20 acres that has a 1,300-foot boundary that adjoins this brand new neighborhood. And I just want to go back and say that when I cut off 4 acres from my piece of, for my cousin's property when I purchased it about 14 years ago from them, I had to jump through a lot of hoops with planning and zoning at that point to sign agreements with them saying that I would not subdivide that 20 acres ultimately into anything less than 5-acre lots. Okay? So imagine my surprise when I do my public records request and I see this, and now he's getting 5 houses per 1 acre. And I am the guy who caused the problem the other night in the planning and zoning meeting. After I got the lecture from Mr. Falk as chairman of that thing about how trustworthy this gentleman is, but, I don't like that kind of condescension. I don't like that kind of coziness between the regulatee and the regulator. And what you're approving is what's on paper. Not a nod, wink, I got you, man, it'll only be. So I am highly skeptical. I am certainly, my quality of life is going to be impacted tremendously. And, to go to 5 units per acre is disconcerting for me. I would like to see a much smaller or a much larger lot, a much smaller footprint for this proposed subdivision. So I would ask you to rethink that. I would ask you to rethink the impacts that it's going to have to stormwater runoff, because when it is not mitigated properly and I start having flooding where I've never had it before, I'm going to come back before you with a bill in my hand asking you to mitigate it. All right, and then the groundwater impacts. I'm on a well, and, hey, they're going to fertilize their lawns. It's going to seep right through that sandy soil, and I'm going to be drinking it. So I want you to know that I'm going to be monitoring the well quality as well. So all that said, I think I've got a great proposal for you. This neighborhood here with this 320 units there, I got 20 acres. How about a spray field?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Miss Mary Wade. Welcome.
Hi, my name is Mary Wade. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Mary Wade. I live at 413 Shadeville Road. I, too, have been there most of my life. I've spent probably 70 years of my 77 there, or more. But I'm very concerned about the density of what you're putting in there. It is, and I'm not comforted by the developer promising to only put in 3 houses per acre, or the 320. Once you've approved that 5-acre change, there's nothing it's a done deal. I mean, it can be 5 per acre forever. What can we do about it? I'm also concerned about where they're saying putting out all of this traffic into Shadeville Road down that one small little entryway. That's going to be hard to get on the road at certain times of day. Is there going to be anything planned to make it easier to enter or exit there? I know they're making a light further on the other end of the street, Songbird, but what's going to be done about the entry into Shadeville Road? Is there going to be any light, it's a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit now, and you have to duck the people who are doing 55, 65, and 75. So I'm very concerned about this. I do want to say that I'm opposed to the change to make it such a large, development, small lots. And I'm concerned that it does not match the surrounding area either. The ones, or most of the other areas around it are on half-acre lots, third-acre lots, something of that nature. So those are my concerns there, and I'm totally opposed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. David Pienta.
Good evening, David Pienta, 53 Meadow Oak Drive in Songbird. Did not know this was on the agenda tonight. I'm glad I showed up. As a resident of Songbird, former president of our HOA, traffic is already a concern. We don't have Publix yet. We don't have this development yet. And people fly through at 45, 50 miles an hour daily. We're going to get somebody killed because we got people riding their bikes. We got people that are already afraid to walk on the sidewalk because that road has no shoulder, none, zero. It's culvert, immediate sidewalk, and people fly through there. It's a curved road. You can't even come out. If we get this much more traffic between this neighborhood and Publix on the other end, don't get me wrong, I love Publix. I was willing to sacrifice a little bit because I want Publix. But I'm not willing to sacrifice adding 325 new homes, or 320 new homes, with an average probably 2 cars per home, to traffic coming daily through Songbird. It's going to be a nightmare to get out on the road. It already is a nightmare to get out on 319, let alone try to get out on Songbird. And if we don't put traffic calming on Songbird, it's a matter of time before someone is killed, I promise you. People are scared to death if you ask any resident of Songbird about traffic as it is right now. So we need to seriously consider, if you want to do this, I'm not going to argue against Mr. Parrish being able to build development. I don't have a dog in the hunt, except for the traffic problem. We've got to put some traffic calming in. We can put speed bumps in. We've asked y'all before to please put speed bumps on Songbird. It will slow people down. I think it's high time that we address that issue before someone gets seriously hurt or killed. And I appreciate your attention.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Sue Damon.
Haven't been up here in a very, very long time. Thank you. You said that last time. 138 Walker Creek Drive, and I think we're going way too fast. I don't know Mr. Parrish at all, but what do we have, 1,000 homes that we've already, I don't know, how many homes do we have, Chuck, that have already coming on board? And now we have another 300 and something. And the gentleman back here, if this was my neighborhood, why can't we make it a nice community? And the lady that talked about Wakulla Springs, that's the only thing we've got. Yeah, we got to change our logo because we're not going to be the natural place. I understand this is in the town plan. I understand this is what it was set up for. But why couldn't we make it a little bit nicer for the neighbors? It must be good neighbors. And you are currently our leaders, and you are forming the future of Wakulla County. And my son came up here and said he might come back and raise his kids here. What's it going to look like in 20 years? Thank you.
Thank you very much. That ends our speakers. Question from the board.
I'll wait till go ahead, Chuck.
Go ahead, Mike.
I'm going to bring it up later when under commission agenda items to speak. But the reason I'm saying yes to this project because it does fall within our town plan and our comp plan. Backs up right behind my house. I live in the Hammocks, very backside. and I walk that neighborhood every day trying to exercise for it. I know that the houses, it falls within our town plan and our comp plan. I've said it, and I'll say it again, I'll leave my personal feelings out of it, but I would vote by what we have in place, which is an item that I'm going to bring up during the commissioner agenda meeting, and I'll leave it at that, and I'll further discuss what I want to say.
Thank you, sir. Further discussion?
Yes. You know, you ever heard of the tragedy of the commons? Basically, I went out to Wakulla Springs the other day, and I looked at a river that is nothing like I remembered 40 years ago. Nothing like I remember 30 years ago. We have slowly degraded Wakulla River. That was the high point for people that come to Wakulla County. The other high point for people to come to Wakulla County is our school system. Here we're going to put 300 new houses on the school system that's already over capacity. I don't, this is a death by 1,000 cuts, and I'm not sure why, that we're doing the right thing for our citizens in our long term. We have approved 1,000 houses, okay, in the last year or so. Why don't we wait a little bit and see the impact of those houses before we move forward with more? This is the right place for development. I would agree with that. It's the right place to do this, but I just think we're growing so fast. Mr. Parrish has got 530 lots that he's already gotten approved. He's got plenty of places to work for a while. I'm not sure that we need to, commit ourselves to this right now and at this time.
Thank you, sir.
And address something too. One of the things about the schools, and that's part of the issue that I was saying earlier, is that with the school systems, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody might know this, is that every school has to be at capacity before we qualify for any type of state, federal funding to build a school. Over capacity. Right, over capacity. So until they are capacity, we're never going to get another school unless we fund it ourselves. That is the issue. The elementary schools and the middle schools are not at capacity, which the high school is. But for us to be able to qualify for any funding money federally to come in, we have to be at over capacity before that happens. So what I'm going to say real quick is that being here for 5 generations, am I happy about all the growth? I'm not, but before I came to the commission in 1995, y'all had a comp plan. I understand it has to be a living plan. In 2012, y'all developed a town plan, and if they meet that criteria, that's the reason I vote off of the facts of the criteria for it and leave it up to the experts. But I will say this, again, I want to bring this up back in my discussion about this and tell you what I think.
This is a comp plan amendment. That means we're changing the comp plan. I understand. So it's not we're not living with the current plan.
What y'all voted for, whoever's on the commission back in 2012, that it was developed, that this is what we want. I don't have to agree with it, and I'm not saying I agree with it, but what I will do, I will follow what the comp plan and town plan says. I think it's only way to be fair to do that. And this is, again, an item that I want to talk about.
Very good. Further discussion?
No speeches from me. Speeches from me.
Okay. Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Aye. Passes 4-1. We'll move to item number 15.
Yes, this is a request for the board to conduct the final public hearing and adopt an ordinance amending the comprehensive plan, public schools facility element and the capital improvements element.
Wish to approve? Second. I have a motion and a second. Any citizens? Discussion from the board? Hearing none,
That's just an update of the...
This is just an annual update as required by Florida statutes.
Very good.
I want people to know that. It's not...
Yeah, we're not doing anything major with this one, Chuck.
A lot of them are just dates moving forward. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Passes 5-0. That ends our planning and zoning. We have no scheduled commissioner agenda items. We'll go to the county attorney.
Nothing additional this evening.
County administrator. Yes, Mr. Chairman. We're currently working on a program with our Jones Edmonds and Associates for the solid waste, expansion of the solid waste transfer
it's not transfer, but, where folks come and dump off their, Class 3, C and D. We're looking at expanding, creating another one, so we'll have 2 dump sites. We're going to look at that and see how we can fit that in.
What do they put it in, open top?
And building another ramp area.
Is Waste Pro on board? They're the one to haul it off, right?
Right, Waste Pro on board.
And with that, we charge a tipping fee for that.
They charge a tipping fee for
Does that
that.
cover the expenses of it and everything?
We gotta get there. But first, we gotta master plan it, and, that's what we're in the process of doing now, because we're getting, on the weekends, it's getting backed up fairly, and it's not very well laid out, so this would give us, when one gets full, instead of having to wait, we can go to the other one, and or dump both at the same time.
How crowded is Mark paying on the weekends, do you know? Woodville?
But also, we're going to be looking at, as part of this master plan, we're going to be looking at an area there that we can have for debris, to be able to haul debris instead of mixing it into C and D, haul debris and then bring it and be able to stack it and then mulch it on a regular basis.
Waste?
So are you talking about a separate dump on the same site or a complete different?
On the same site, that's on the same site, right now. So, that's just based on the growth that we've got, and we feel like we need to go ahead and at least be planning for it. We'll seek some grant dollars for a portion of it, and we'll fund the rest of it out of the solid waste fund. Other than that, that's about it.
So that'll come back.
That will come back, yes. And also, to let you know, we'll, on the golf course, we'll have the due diligence probably completed, I'd say probably the end of this month, probably mid-May, I would say, and we'll bring that back to you guys.
Thank you, sir. When we talked earlier, you're thinking it'll handle 600?
Yeah, from the looks and talking to all the agronomists and everything, and it's looking somewhere between 600,000 and 750, something like that.
But you'll have
On the average day-to-day basis. And our big area is, that we're looking at is how heavy we can dose some of the waste areas, and that may tick it up a little bit, but, you can...
Waste areas meaning not being used for golf.
That's right.
Not
being used
having
for golf.
people on it.
And in the golf business, it's waste area, so yes.
Unused, we'll call it, not waste.
Right, that's right.
Buffer.
Well, that one hole out there's 8 feet deep, so you can go down a good way.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's what we're looking, that would be the only caveat, so.
In there.
We lost a few golf balls in there, didn't you, Chuck?
Well, it's dry. You can go hit that.
Okay.
All right. Second citizen to be heard. Let's see. Warnick, is that right?
Unfortunately, we've made acquaintance before on Facebook. I'm here to just say that I completely disagree with the rapid infiltration basin, as you guys call it, versus I'm more in favor of the infrastructure with a golf course or another location. And since I'm up here, I just got to say publicly, I'm very disappointed in the county. I've lived here over 20 years, and I came here all the way from California for the Springs. They were so beautiful, and this place was just a gem. And unfortunately, the development has not taken the turn that I had hoped that it might, and the county plan has not been followed. And you've not placed the proper infrastructure, and the people who do your infrastructure are employed by you, so God help them if they don't agree. I mean, at least I'd be afraid if I was the infrastructure engineer. I'd certainly be going out of my way to do what I could for my bosses.
I have an infrastructure engineer.
Well, you need one.
We don't have...
And having lived in the second place in the entire country that was an infrastructure planned community, it was incredible. I lived in Irvine, California, and I worked 5 miles away, and for what it was designed to do, certainly not a place I wanted to live forever, but for the amount of people that it had to house and take care of, it was done classy, it was done well, it had different tiers of housing. and amenities, and the planning really paid off. So maybe that's something that I keep trying to encourage, that Wakulla somehow get a licensed professional infrastructure engineering firm involved to help you with the plans so that they work better for everybody instead of just haphazard. Oh, let's develop here and let's develop there. That's not organization, sir. You guys aren't dumb people. You're all well educated. You all know what I'm talking about. If we had a plan, you're never going to make all of us happy. But at least it would be environmentally correct, it would be aesthetically pleasing, it would benefit everyone. And I think it couldn't hurt. And I know it might cost us some more tax dollars. I realize that. But God, we need it. We desperately need it. Otherwise, we're going to create a disastrous, system of it looks like it right now.
Thank you.
It looks like it.
Bring it in. Thank you for coming down. Miss Carolyn Coker.
My name is Carol Coker, and I live at 513 Parkside Circle. That is in the park. We came here for several reasons, but mostly because from the time that I can remember, my mother being married at the Springs when I was 10 years old. My father had passed away when I was young, and she married again. And that was a wonderful thing. I could remember that forever. Then my son came here, and he was working in Tallahassee. We were in Crystal River, a beautiful place. But he wanted us to come to Tallahassee. We said, we can't. It's too much traffic. We saw all these ads about how wonderful Wakulla County is. Well, those old memories came up. So we ended up at the park. When we went there, we really quizzed everybody. Real estate, we looked and we looked. We quizzed real estate about sinkholes, all these kind of things, because we came from that. We had that in our neighborhood where we were in Crystal River. So the Springs to us was just the wonderful place to be. Then when we get here, we get in a new home, and besides all the things that we went into in the park, as some of them already said, I'll just throw it in. It was infrastructure. We have no internet. We have no computers. We have no anything in our home. We did not expect that. So then we find out, people are talking about more property, and then we're talking about these other things. This didn't all come together to me. And my problem is that even though y'all talked about it at different meetings, it was coming across to the public under different names. It wasn't like, okay, this is the name of this project, and we're going to talk about it, anything about it, this is the title for this project, and we need to keep it that so that everybody understands that whether it's wastewater, whether it's more property, or whatever it is, when you put meetings out and you go on things, you need to have the same name of that project so we can pull that together. We're not from here. We don't know this mower. We don't know all this. It needs to have one name. We found out that one day it's more property. The next day it's the wastewater disposal plant. And mostly what we see is whatever the newspaper picks up. Is that when y'all create a project like that, does it have a name and does it say that? Is that the way it's done or no?
Not really, no.
Wouldn't that be something that should be done?
Let Bill name it.
So that we all know it on the same page and know what, when you're talking about something. I thought this was three different things. So my thing is, and I want to say that I appreciate the work that you're making at the golf course, not just to say, we're going to have tunnel vision, we've already made our decision, we're not going to listen.
Get into a close, if you will, please, Ms. Cover.
And because actually where we are, we all have septic tanks. We don't want the wastewater in our septic tanks.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Miss Natasha Toth, please.
Jennifer Maureen's here with me, just to stand here.
Welcome.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name's Natasha, and this is Jennifer Maureen. We live in the Park Subdivision. On March 8th and again on March 17th, Ms. Maureen and I composed 2 emails to our commissioners, county administrator, and many other entities. As of today, only one county commissioner has personally replied, but this was only after several inquiries made by us. Of course, Mr. Thomas knows I like to respectfully disagree, which I still do on his replies, but at least he replied. Nobody else on the board has not acknowledged receipt nor stated they would reply back to us. As I stated, we live in the Park Subdivision, and we are very concerned how the constructed wetland being proposed in the parcel directly south of our subdivision will impact properties around it. Our subdivision was designated around documented sinkhole features. County records show sinkhole remediation has been conducted in at least 11 homes in our subdivision between the years of 2010 and 2011. Our March 17th email included a topography map of our subdivision so you could see directly where these sinkhole features were in our subdivision. The construction of this wetland will have negative impacts on the surrounding neighborhoods. By installing a wetland feature, you change groundwater levels and its flow patterns in nearby properties. Since sinkholes will form once water storage begins, millions of gallons of treated water will be received into an aquifer at extremely rapid rate via a sinkhole, should one form. How will this impact the properties around the site, the proposed site? Once you start to manipulate the groundwater, there's no telling what damage will be caused. The Wakulla Recharge Park, which is located across the residential area and was featured in your February presentation, has been and will continue and currently is being plagued by sinkhole formations. They're dumping millions of treated wastewater into the aquifer in very short time periods. One night, 4 sinkholes opened up. According to Wakulla officials, they have no idea where future sinkholes will form or when they will stop. So who pays for the on-site sinkhole remediation should they form on-site? Is it paid through grants, the state, or is it the county's responsibility? If it is the county's responsibility, I don't know how Wakulla has the budget that Wakulla has. How will the county cover the costs for the recurring repair costs if it is the responsibility lies on them? Neither of you or anyone on the board, are not professional environmental engineers nor geologists. None of you would have the education nor background to answer valid questions or new information being raised or brought forth by the citizens of this county. But you do have a duty as an elected county official to bring forth any reasonable or unknown piece of information to the environmental firm you've hired.
Ms. Toth, can you bring it into a landing for me?
Yeah, just a second. For further evaluation and comments of their profession. So my question is that I hope that when you guys are looking at this, you're thinking about all the repercussions, and if there's something being brought forth by the concerned citizens, you take it to the people who are knowledgeable enough to explain those answers.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Well, for the record, I have a master's degree in engineering, and my PE was in environmental engineering. Just FYI.
Well, then you should have answered my email.
You want us to contact you, but you don't respond.
You got my phone number, call me.
No, sir. We've been to
All
the
right.
meeting.
We have to move on.
Do an email.
Mr. Mark Crabtree. Thank you for your service, sir.
Thank you. Yes, sir. My name is Mark Crabtree. I live at 76 Summerwood Drive. I only have a couple questions about this mess, stinky mess. I've seen this tried several times at Army bases, Marine Corps bases, overseas, and in the U.S. It really doesn't work that well. My only question is, I would like to see your environmental impact study, and I'd like to see who's going to inject the dye in there and where it's going to come out. That's all I have.
studies that we have will be available to the public. A lot of the research is still being done on the
An EPA environmental impact study.
Oh, absolutely. Everything you do is going to be in accordance with Florida DEP and the Northwest Florida Water Management District.
I want to see the federal EPA impacts.
I'm not sure that is required.
Not required. It will be when I make a phone call.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you, sir, for coming down. All right, that ends our citizens to be heard. We'll go to discussion items by commissioners. Randy, we'll start with you.
I think that's better.
All right.
I've got a couple items real quick. I'm on for Jennifer and them real quick. One of the things I want people to understand that the state of Florida spends $4 billion a year to protect our environment. They work for the state. They don't work for the county. We submit permits and plans, and during that process, they look at it. We got to rely on the experts and their facts, and that's where I would make my decisions. I'm not an expert in wastewater, don't claim to be. He might be, they know a lot more than do. But my thing is this right here, give us an opportunity to let the experts come back and see. I'm going to meet with some other experts, I'm going to go and talk to them because I don't know. I will make a decision based off of facts and based on what the experts say. But understand, again, the state of Florida spends $4 billion a year to the Environmental Protection Agency to protect Florida. We all want clean water. We all want what's best for Wakulla County, so let's let the studies show and what the experts say, and that's where I will base my decisions off of. So I want you to understand that.
No back and forth, please. Go back and forth.
We can't do citizens to be heard at this point, ma'am.
Yeah, I'll be glad to talk to you after this if you'll stick around and for it. My other thing was, Ms. Alexander, I apologize because I did want to meet with experts before, so we don't go back and forth. I've got a whole list of questions. I'm actually meeting with some experts to get opinions about what has to happen. That's the reason I have it. When you called me, I was in the middle of working on an event for Ducks Unlimited. So.
I'm an event too, but I was concerned about my home.
Thank you, Ms. Alexander.
Well, I understand, but last but not least, I want us to look at a growth expert to look at our town plan. The comp plan was done in 1995. Town plan was done in 2012. I think that we need to hire somebody, and I'm not for spending taxpayers' dollars that we don't have to, but I think we need to hire somebody who is an expert in this, to look at our current, where we're at today, look at our town plan, and look at our needs, not our wants. The wants can be over here, but I want somebody to come here, take a look at where we're at, look at our town plan, and also I want to be able to have it at the community center and get input from businessmen, citizens, and stuff like that, where we want our county to go. I think the 2012, the plan, I don't know if there's any provisions that's made to the town plan since then, but I think if we hire somebody that does this for a living to come here and take a look at it, I think we'll be 10 times step ahead down in the future.
So Kimberly Horton did a needs assessment in 2017, and it said we didn't need to approve any more development until 2035.
Said that we didn't need any more comprehensive plan land use changes. Theoretically, and Chuck, you know just as well as I do what that meant about if you have a house on 3 acres,
we have plenty of buildable parcels inside the...
and they have a house on them already.
We have plenty of... No, there's 22,000 vacant lots.
Only 27% of the county can be developed as of right now.
That's
We've litigated this needs analysis 100 times over.
and it says there's 22,000 available lots. Okay, and that's what it says. Okay, so it's not, there is a needs analysis that says we don't need to approve any more new development.
It also does not take you to a plant that does not...
It does put where people want to move. It does say you might do it for marketability purposes, which is what everybody's hanging their hats on, is that this is the product that's selling, not that 5-acre tract or not that 10-acre tract. It's this 1 acre, 2 acre, whatever it is. That's what they're hanging their hats on in their development program.
Well, and something else I don't agree with. Our town plan, you go from 2 to 5. you know, so Mr. Parrish, you obviously said he's gonna do 3 houses per acre. Technically, if you look at our town plan, there's 10 houses per acre. Am I right about that? So thank God he's not doing 10. Thank God he's not doing 5, 4. I just think that if we're gonna, look at these developments, bigger that, have an expert to come in and take a look at it and sit there and let's have it where it is 2, 3, 4, or 5. I don't know if that's too much work. I think,
That can be done through zoning though.
Well,
we need to have a future land use.
okay, well, and that's fine. I did not realize that, but that's something that we need to take a look at where when he comes in here, or whoever the developer is comes in and wants to build a subdivision, whatever, they say that, hey, we're only going to build 2 houses. We're only going to build 3. Which is what Mr. Parrish said he's going to do 3. But if I read that town plan up and down, and there's things I'm learning, but thank goodness he's not building 10 per in there.
What will we be asking the expert to determine for us?
Well, I think maybe look at where we're at, where we're currently at right now, look at our town plan and get the input from the citizens. Have it, light it at the community center and have people come in and have them, email them, let them do it, to come up there and say, hey, look, this is what we want to do. This is coming from the people. If the people don't show up for it, then, okay, then that's fine, but I think given the opportunity for people to have their input, to come up here, take a look at where we're at, and I honestly think we will be ahead of the game. That's my opinion.
I was on the board when Miss Arch first brought this up, Ralph, I think you were too. They did all that. They did meeting after meeting after meeting.
I was actually a citizen, and I participated in the, as a citizen.
I'm the one that was on the board at the time. They did all that, trust me. There were meetings after meetings after meetings.
But it was in 2012, we're 2020.
And how many years did it take? 3, 4, 5?
Yeah, the town plan development took a number of years, it was probably in the process for 10 or 15 years if you go back into history of visioning for the town.
And we're just now getting the zoning and future land use categories to implement it, right?
Correct.
We haven't, just because we adopted the town plan didn't mean we have the zonings and the future land use categories to go along with them. These have just been coming along over time. The landscaping, architectural controls we just passed a couple months ago, that goes back to the town plan. So, I'm not for it. No offense. I don't want to relitigate it all over again.
To me, a lot of this comes down to what do our citizens want? And obviously, there's a lot of people in opposition to the neighborhoods that live nearby, and we know what they want, and we'd all like to keep things exactly the way they are. But the best way to determine what people want is to see what they're willing to spend their money on. If he develops these lots at 3 homes per acre and nobody buys them, then we have expert opinions that nobody wants those, okay? If we drive the price up and we say everything has to be 5-acre lots, then we're also pricing these homes higher, and we already see that. We already see the average home that sells over $200,000.
The thing about it is,
5 to code voting thing that we're talking
we don't even have an agenda item.
I was making sure that
This is
that's not where we're going.
No, this is just a discussion item, as far as I know.
acre lot, I get it, but some people.
And I just use that as an example.
Some people just want to be able to cut their grass in 10 minutes with a push mower, go into the house, and I understand that. I just think if we could take a look and have somebody who is an expert in this, Randy, I'd say Randy, to be honest with you, with everything he knows, he probably is the expert with a lot of it, but.
Well, it depends on what question we're asking. If we're asking the question, should we shut the gates and not let anybody else in?
No.
Are we asking the question of how many people should live here, what size lot they should live on, what part of the county it needs to be in? Those are all free market questions that when people buy these properties and buy their homes, they make those decisions.
The questions that we're asked in the formation of the cooperative town plan is, where do you want to see growth occur at? And then what density, not necessarily where do you want 10 units spread or whatever, but where do you want higher density, where do you want medium density, where do you want low density? Now, there's disagreements where...
And I would agree with the town plan, I really would have liked to be able to vote for the Hoffman property, but you took all that density and put it outside the town plan up on East Ivan. That's the problem, is we're not sticking to the plan, we're changing the plan as we go along, and it ends up, basically destroying the whole system because it doesn't work anymore.
And not to be argumentative, let your applause finish, not to be argumentative, but Yes, you're right, I went outside the town plan when I voted for that one. So did you when you voted against this one, right?
No, I did,
And the last meeting as well, 2 meetings in a row.
no, Kathleen,
Both of them are issues about the development themselves. What about the one up here that's right around the corner, that's right in the central core district of the town plan, you voted against it? Again, not being argumentative, but don't use the argument that I didn't like this one outside. We didn't, Dean Cutchins one.
On Cedar Avenue.
Cedar Avenue. You really couldn't.
That's it.
Me and you voted together. We voted. So, I can tell you that my point on that one is if you're going to do it, go big. I know there's always a point. It was too small. Not to be argumentative, but I just don't buy the argument, well, this is not in the town plan, so I'm not going to support it. That corollary of that, if it is in the town plan, I am going to support it.
My point is this right here, as the way it's currently written, with your town plan and your comp plan, if they meet the criteria, you cannot tell them no, or if you do, you're going to get sued, you're going to lose.
not on the comp plan, not
On the town plan, if they meet the criteria, if they meet everything, hold on a sec. I'm saying, if we do it for Ralph and we do it for Quincy and we don't do it for Mr. Parrish, he's going to hire an attorney, he's going to sue, and he's going to sue us. Before I came to county commissioner, even before that, these things have happened. A plan has to be a living plan. I completely understand that. I'm just saying that I feel like if we take somebody to take a look at it, get some input from the citizens, I think we'll be ahead of the game. I understand that the provisions that were done in 2017, I just think if we take a step back, take a look at it, and I didn't realize it took that long, so obviously I don't want to, I was hoping it was be a little bit quicker than that, because, I mean, we are growing at a rapid, and listen to me, right now, I cover 18 counties right now, from Madison, and I've talked to other county commissioners, I'm on the small coalition of counties, every single county is dealing with the exact same thing we're dealing with right now, every one of them. So, I think we could be the model for that, I'm for growth. It's not that I'm against it, but I think that we need to take a step back and take a look at it. That's all I'm saying, and get an expert come in. This wastewater treatment thing, that's the reason I haven't talked to her about it, because I'm going to talk to experts first, and when I get through talking to experts, then I will make my decision based off of that. So that's it.
Actually, I didn't.
I'm sticking around,
Ralph, I'm sorry. Yeah, go right ahead. In these new subdivisions, I want to ask for action on this, and it's just a direct staff to do something, but in these new subdivisions, our current code says once you reach 30% build out, you have to build out all the infrastructure. And what the issue has been is, part of the infrastructure is sidewalks. So they'll build a sidewalk in front of a vacant lot, they'll get run over by dump trucks, concrete trucks, truss trucks, they'll get broken up, they got to dig them out, they got to re-pour them again. So I'm just asking simply just to change the sidewalk portion. Right now it says either 5 years or 30% build out, right, Summer? I'd like to maybe just apply it to sidewalks where, yes, you keep the 5 years, so a builder can't just walk away, it's going to be bonded, but let them build them as they go, like they did in the Park subdivision, like they did on Aaron Strickland, I think, behind Bellamy's that Robbie did. They get their CO, they had to have the sidewalk in place. Same thing they've done in the park.
You might have one home on the street with a sidewalk, but they don't have to build out the entire street.
Correct.
Makes sense.
Until 5 years.
David is not in favor of it, but he and I...
Does not work well.
He and I disagree on that.
Development staff.
So anyway, my motion is going to be that direct staff to bring it back. Then we can argue about it at that time, if I can get a second.
And it takes a 5-0?
No, it takes... It's just staff direction, don't take a 5-0. According to...
If we're going to vote, if you're going to make a motion, we're going to vote. It's going to take a 5-0, correct, Heather?
Yes.
We looked at this earlier, hold on, let me...
That's always been the procedure, so...
Take it a 5-0, then
I'd just bring it back, at the next...
I won't say it right.
He wants me to write the item for him.
It says no assignments or requests for agenda items shall be given to the county administrator or county attorney without the express approval of the majority.
Okay.
Majority
Okay.
of the board.
So we're not making a decision on it tonight, which would require 5-0. Okay, very good. Thanks for
That's
clarifying.
my motion, if there's a second.
Do we have a second?
I'm for taking a look at it. I mean...
He needs a second to give her...
Well, the second then, to take a look at it.
We have a motion.
It's hard to take a look at it.
Very good. Motion and a second for the public. This was not an agenda item, but if you'd like to speak on it, you still can. Please let us know. Please fill out a speaker card for Ms. Jessica.
Just don't want to get it where it don't happen at all.
All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? 5-0. Thank you. Got it in. All right. Anything else, Randy?
Yeah, I got a bunch more. No, I'm just...
Hey, what you want to talk about wetlands and...
We've got till midnight, and at midnight we'll have to extend the meeting, but we can definitely talk until midnight.
You hear me, Chuck?
I'm ready.
Which one first, feral cat?
Let's talk about, Mr. Kemp wants to talk about $4 billion for protecting our environment. Well, that's how much DEP might spend. We're not going to be able to take any more public comment tonight, but
Too fast for me.
please come back for the next
Not
month.
that fast.
You want to speak on this item we just voted on? It's going to come back. All we voted was to have staff bring it back, so if you will, just monitor that and come back and speak on the content of it.
Well, I've done that before. It didn't work well.
Come give it another shot, sir. Thank you. All right, Chuck, I got a question for you. I heard several times tonight talk about Wakulla Springs, and, I grew up here. No one loves Wakulla Springs more than me. We have proven that the nitrogen is reduced. It's the lowest content it's been in the past 20 years. All of 2020, it was actually below the threshold established for the BMAP. Just one simple question for you. Is the water dark in Wakulla Springs because we live in homes in Wakulla County? No. But that's what a lot of people think. A lot of people think.
But yes, but the water is cleaner because it's dark. The water that's coming out the springs now is the water coming off the national forest, because there's not enough pressure to keep that going out Wakulla Spring Creek, and so it's ending up going out Wakulla Spring. Tannic. And it's the tannic acid. And it's clean because it came off the forest.
Yes, sir. I agree.
If it was water coming from Tallahassee or north of us, where it goes through the filter, then it would be going out Wakulla Springs, and that's the clear water. And so it's just a question of where the water's coming from that determines that. And the say that the springs is cleaner, all you're saying is that more of the water is coming from the forest and less of it's coming from the aquifer pipe, the tunnel coming down from Tallahassee.
The tannic acid is not necessarily dirty. It's clean. It's natural water.
It's natural water. It's supposed to be going out Spring Creek, and it's not.
Which we can't control that. We can't control where that goes.
There's got to be, there's something that's changed. We haven't figured out what has changed, but it's changed, and it's probably something we're doing, okay, or did.
I would say part of the change, and not all of it by any means, is the fact that we're removing septic tanks, and now we're spraying.
No, that's not it.
We're definitely taking water out of that basin. We're definitely taking water out of that basin.
No, that's not it.
You don't think that's had any contribution of reducing the water in that basin or reducing the nitrogen in that basin?
In the Wakulla Springs Basin, yes, it has had a contribution.
Yes.
It has had an impact on some of it, but insignificant amount.
I'm not saying that takes all the credit.
As fast as we're taking them off, we're adding them somewhere else.
Okay.
So it's not, just because you close one here, that doesn't mean that nitrogen is gone, because you just added it back over on the development off.
Fair enough.
Other side.
A lot of the developments are connected to sewer now. A lot of the developers are paying for the connections to sewer, running pipes as well as lift stations. And the tannic acid is not harmful. It's natural. If we have more pressure in that area, it may push that tannic acid back into the forest. But
no, it won't go back to forest. It'll go back to Spring Creek, and that's where it needs to be. And what we're not paying attention, and the DEP is not paying attention, is that they're not maintaining flow at Spring Creek. And that's what is important, because if you maintain flow at Spring Creek, then more of the water ends up going out Wakulla Springs. And their whole study of minimum flows for Wakulla Springs, they're ignoring Spring Creek. And we know the connections there. We don't know how it works, or why it works that way, but we do know that it's there. And so they need to be focused on making sure the flow at Spring Creek
is maintained, and we don't have the inflows that we're starting to see, and that's when Talcott started having water problems, and the quality of the water went to heck, just because we started having big inflows at Spring Creek, and whether it's, what's causing it,
Somebody threw a rock in there and plugged it up.
it could be that. It could be a sinkhole that opened up, blocked the tunnel. How do we increase the flow at Spring Creek? How do we increase the flow at Spring Creek? How do we increase the flow? We get the head pressure higher at, coming south from Tallahassee. We've got to get the head pressure higher. And when you can talk about the pumps up in, they did a study up in, Tall Timbers. They turned on a well fill up there, they turned on those pumps, and the head in those wells dropped 10 feet. Now that head is supposed to push water all the way down here. That was gone. So you're saying the problem is they're extracting too much water north of us? North of us, they're extracting too much water. We have the same similar water problems that Apalachicola River does. If anything, the state problem is something that we have no control over. Right. So that's why I was objecting to Mr. Kemp's saying that we're taking care of our water systems, because you look at the nutrient, the green algae all over the state, and this is from our DEP that's spending $4 billion a year to protect our waters. We had this discussion about requiring high-performance septic tanks or sewer in all development across the state. Because, right now, just to fix the septic tanks we have is a $25 billion bill, just to fix the ones we have. And that's only if we fix them with high-performance septic tanks. If we fix them with sewer, it's a $50 billion bill. And we're adding $400 million of septic tanks.
We haven't discussed this.
Hey, this is the only time we have to discuss it. We can't discuss it anywhere else. So, we're not protecting our environment. The whole state is not protecting our environment, and we need to be doing that. But we're more focused on the short-term gains, of development than we are on the long-term sustainability of our communities. It sounds like you told me that the building homes is not causing the dark water in Wakulla Springs. That's what we see. When we go there, believe me, I've gone there my entire life, fished Wakulla River, swam, everything. But that dark water is not caused because Mr. Parrish is building over. No, it's not. I'll tell you what is caused by Mr. Parrish building over. Publix is coming, okay? We had a Publix item on here tonight, and not one single person was in opposition to it, and that's what everybody's been wanting the Publix for. I understand, but it goes hand in hand. It goes hand in hand to try to build a better community. Publix actually gives us a better community, and I can support that, okay? I support it, but just rampant development doesn't build us a better community. We don't have impact fees. Our park system doesn't have enough money to expand and do the things we do. We're going to come up with a $12 million bill to build a new recreation park. We don't have the money for doing these things. Okay, we're going to count on the state and beg for it. We need to be charging the amount to our developers that their impact is going to have on our county. I think it's been at least 10 years since we've had impact fees, and we found that they're very hard to spend. We still haven't spent them all today, and we haven't collected any in 10 years. They're still... I'd love to give them back. I would love to give them back. Let me tell you why. And I've said this, and I proved it last time, and I'm probably going to have to prove it again. When you have new people that buy new homes, they're paying more in taxes than their neighbors. If you move here, you're paying more taxes than your neighbors. If you live here your entire life and you graduate and you start a family and you have never lived anywhere but Wakulla County, but you build a house, you're paying more taxes than your neighbor. If you do the math, it's not only more taxes today, it's exponentially higher. The new folks are always, we ought to be thanking the new people for coming here, and we have new people standing here tonight that love this county. They're paying more in taxes than the people that lived here and bought their homes 20 years ago. It's just numbers. It ain't opinion, it's just facts. And if they're paying more in taxes, then we have to look at is what is the price of the government services that you receive. And Mr. and Mrs. Smith, if you're paying more than everybody else, but I say, oh, but you got to build a new house, so I'm going to take a little more from you. That's not fair. There's no way to make that fair if you do the math. Somebody do the math and prove me wrong, because every time I've done the math, it holds consistent that the new people always pay more than the rest of us. But we're not paying, the new houses are not paying. I'm done.
No.
Chuck, do you have anything? I've had enough already. Okay. We have a motion to adjourn? So moved. All right. Thank you all for coming. Good meeting, Ralph. Thank you.
Good job.